Hello.
Hi, everybody.
I think we're live. That was weird. My computer froze for a second. So,
Oh, good timing.
oh, yeah, thanks a lot, computer. Always so helpful. So, hey, everyone. We're here. Me, Awen the Elf, and David Randall. We're here to talk about the 15 Nations Global Tour. We are wrapping up our second stop on the tour, which has been Argentina. And I've gotten some updates over the last few weeks, and I know there's been some good stuff happening. So, David, talk to us.
All right. Well, what I wanted to do first, before we get into Argentina, is go back to India,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have some people that have remained behind or have taken little jaunts back to India and done some work. So
Yeah.
I want to give a little update there, and then also use that to kind of compare where we ended up with Argentina. So when we ended, let me should have my notes pulled up here. Give me just 1 second here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just one moment. I'm sorry. So we ended Argentina. We ended India with 200, and I believe it was 28. That's the number I'm not finding here, but 228 profiles added.
Uh-huh.
We didn't connect any of our 15 India people, but we did add 200 and I think it was 28 new profiles. That's gone up to closer to 250 now. So we've
Nice.
even since we left India, there's still some people that are making connections.
That's
And let's
fantastic.
open that up. For those that are new, if you're tuning in and you're not real familiar with what we do, I should go back and just give a little explanation. We every 3 weeks we pick a new country, and from that country we pick 15 notables who are not connected currently to the tree. And in fact, I try to pick individuals who have absolutely nobody connected. For the most part, I create the original profile. Every once in a while, I find a profile that's already online, but most of those either have nobody connected to them, or if they do, have maybe just their parents with no information. So they're basically still a kind of a blank slate. And our goal is to, number one, get them connected to as many additional people, family members as possible, and ideally get them connected to the big tree. Also within that, we want to work on their profiles and make them, look nice, get some good biographies up, find pictures, do some appropriate sourcing. When I put up the original profile for the notables, usually the profile will contain only 1 or 2 lines that I got off of Wikipedia, just saying why they're famous. I don't do any pre-research or add any biographical information, other than I do put the birth and death dates in there. So from there, it's up to the membership to do what they can to grow these trees. And as I said, with our 15 Indian notables, we were able to add 250 additional profiles to those 15. Now, there was something that was a little surprising with the Indian profiles, is most of the people that we chose, the 15 original notables, had some quite famous notables in their family tree. So something I've added, if you haven't been back to the India Free Space page recently, I've added a second table down below the original 15 with 50 additional notables, India notables, who are one way or another connected to the original 15.
That's fun.
So we've got basically 65 Indian notables on there, all of which need connecting, and all of which need some work on their biographies and that. So if you're at all interested in India and Indian history, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Now, we didn't get a lot of connecting to the big tree. The problem there is we didn't have a lot of Indian profiles already on the tree to connect to.
Sure.
And Indian culture is unlike European culture. In the 1800s, the Europeans were traveling all over the world, migrating, interacting with other countries, where the Indian population tended to be more sedentary, staying in one place. So you didn't get a big, Indian immigration to the United States or
Right.
Australia or Argentina. So it's a little, so connecting was kind of a lofty goal to begin with. So I think, considering that, I think we did really well with the 250.
Oh, I think it was amazing.
Yeah, I was really surprised because that was our first country, and this is an experiment. We weren't sure if we'd get any connections, so it was really impressive. So then we moved on to Argentina. We wrapped up the end of our third week today. People are still working there. I did ran some totals last night, and they've gone up significantly. I just did it half an hour ago, and just since last night, we continue to add
more.
So, of our 15 notables for Argentina, we were able to connect 6 to the big tree.
Nice.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
We also had an amazing amount of new profiles created. When I'm doing, just as a little bit of a reference, I'm going to say we have about, and I'll give you the number, but I use the word about because, or I should say at least, because once we connect the individual to the global tree, I can no longer keep track. Since they're now related to everybody,
right.
Any profile added to the global tree is going to be a connection. So I can only connect up to the point that I can only count up to the point that they're connected. So I keep those numbers in the total, but if you connect somebody and then you add a spouse and their children, I'm not able to keep track of that. So these are, again, the total I'm about to give you is going to be an at least number rather than the exact total. And the at least total for, and I want to pull up the exact number here because I just wrote it down. Oh shoot. I had all my notes ready and now I can't find the grand total number.
Hang on, I'll give you a drum roll.
Yeah, do a long drum roll. There it is. Okay. Here, and so for no, that's what it is. Okay. For India, we had 249 was our total number of connections, or total number of new profiles.
For India?
As of a half hour ago, for Argentina, we have 408.
Wow.
Now, I will also state that when we started this, there were 500 profiles from Argentina on WikiTree's.
So we almost doubled.
Yeah, so we've almost doubled the number that were actually on there to begin with.
That's fantastic.
And connected 6. And we have a 7th one that, as of today, Antonio Bernie, he's an artist. When I run the totals, it says how many people are in their family tree. It says 100 plus. I guess the system stops counting at 100. So I don't know how many he has altogether, but he has over 100 family relations, and he is not yet connected to the global tree. Formula One race car driver Juan Manuel Fangio, I think it's pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
He has 90 connections. So he's almost up to that 100 point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an amazing number for any project. 400 profiles is a whole lot of profiles.
Outstanding.
And I will credit, we have a number of people, I don't know how many, but we have a number of people from Argentina who participated. And they were a big help because they were able to direct us to sources that we might not have otherwise had. Right. Argentina does have apparently a significant interest in genealogy.
Yeah.
So that certainly helps. Now, on the flip side of that, I will tell you that 2 of our individuals, the first, Emiliano Sala, he was a football player who was killed in a plane crash when he was, I believe, 29. That was just a few years ago. We've only been able to connect him to his parents. And so he only has 2 connections. The reason for that, I believe, is because he was so young. His parents were also fairly young, which means his mother's profile, she's still living.
Yep.
His mother's profile is private. His father just passed away within the last couple of years, so his is open, but we've not been able to make any connections from him. And he has a brother and sister, but they're also young and still private.
Yeah.
So there aren't a lot of routes for us to go. So really, unless we can figure out who his grandparents are, we're kind of stuck.
Stuck on that one for a bit.
Yeah. The other one is he went by the name of Kino, and he is a cartoonist, an animator. Was quite famous in Argentina and actually around the world. His cartoons have been published in, I believe, some 30 plus countries. He only has 3 relationships. So his, I don't quite have the explanation why we're not able to get any breakthrough with him. But those 2 are kind of straggling behind. The rest of them have all in the teens to 20s. There's a couple I mentioned that have 90 to 100 relationships. So they're all doing really well. The thing that we need to do now, if anybody wants to stick around with Argentina, we still need the biographies written, kind of organized a little bit. Some of them are really good. Some have, we see people put some effort into it. Others have kind of some mishmash facts that people have put up. It'd be nice to get them into a narrative form and get them cleaned up a little bit.
Definitely.
And we can still work on them. Surprisingly, with both India and Argentina, we've had a bit of a difficult time connecting their current leaders. Argentina has, I put up the president and the vice president. The vice president used to be president, and she's married to another president. So you'd think with those 3 presidents, we'd get a connection. But
you'd think so.
Like politicians keep their personal life a little more private than we do here in America, and maybe some of the other Western European countries. But trying to find birth dates for parents and children, it's not all that easy. But I think with a little more effort, we could probably get them connected eventually. And as we have mentioned previously, that once we close India, or once we leave India today, I'm sorry, not India, Argentina, the website will still stay open. The connections will still be there. So anybody that wants to go back and continue working with Argentina, or go all the way back to India and work on that, it's still doable. These are up there permanently. They don't close just because we've moved on.
Yeah, if you find an area you love, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and you may find a country, just isn't connecting with you. You're not figuring out where, what to do. Then just head on back to one of the other ones for a while and do some catch up, and then come on back. So, are we ready to move on to country number 3?
Yes, excited.
Okay, so this one has me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And the other ones did. The other ones did too. So, the team has surprised me both times. So, hopefully they'll surprise me this time. We're going to Europe. You would think that Europe wouldn't be so intimidating, but I picked a country that I think is probably more intimidating than others might be. This is a very big country that's been in the news quite a bit lately. We are going to Ukraine.
Ukraine
is, if you haven't heard, in a lot of turmoil right now. And this happens to be the first anniversary of the Russian invasion there. So I thought it was kind of timely.
Yeah.
I don't know, as with the other countries, I don't know what records are available. I'm hoping that despite the conflict that's going on the ground, that online records are still available, and that we'll be able to do the research that we need to do. There are currently 8,992 Ukrainian profiles on WikiTree's.
We have that many?
Which is a lot. Well, a lot of people, come from Ukraine. It's a big country.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that'll help us, that if we, depending on what the status of the records over there are, we may be able to make some more connections because we have more people to connect to. The biggest problem that I had in choosing the 15 Ukrainian individuals is defining what's a Ukrainian.
Right.
Ukraine has only been a country since 1991. It's been an entity of sorts going way back to the, probably 1,000 years or so. Kiev was the kind of the hub of a number of political entities that have gone on through the years.
Right.
But within the recent generations, that we work with, which I'd say from 1800 forward, much of that time they were occupied by the Soviet Union or Russia before that. So if somebody was born in 1930 and lived to 1970, they were Soviet. They weren't necessarily Ukrainian. Some of the Soviet leaders, Leonid Brezhnev, for example, was Ukrainian, but we don't really associate him with the Ukraine. He was a Soviet leader.
Sure.
So it was kind of a challenge to find people within our time frame who qualified completely as Ukrainian. So basically what I did was anybody that was born in what is now the Ukraine. Oh, one other thing to say is the borders changed. So Poland used to be part of Ukraine, parts of Poland did, other countries. So you could be born in Poland and then Ukraine came in and took over that territory, and now you're Ukrainian, but you still identify as Polish. So do I count?
Very complicated.
So when you look down the list, you're going to see a little bit of a variety. Everybody on the list, to the best of my recollection, was born in what is now Ukraine, even if it wasn't Ukraine at the time that they were born. They did not all die in Ukraine. Some moved away. Most of them, however, lived their lives in what is now Ukraine. There are a couple people that might be more considered a Soviet, but I kept them anyway because they had some really fascinating stories.
Nice.
They were born in Ukraine. They maybe supported the Soviet cause, if you will. But anyway, so that's just something that you're looking down the list. If you're wondering why they picked this person, not that person, that was the biggest challenge I got. So let me pull up my list of 15 notables here. Give me just a second again.
Stephen was asking if parts of Galicia were ever part of the Ukraine, and I'm pretty sure.
I believe so, yes.
Don't ask which parts, but I'm pretty sure there were parts.
Okay. I'm trying to use two different computers here, and I keep forgetting which mouse goes to which.
Easy to get that confused.
Okay. I'm sorry, I should have had this ready, but it closed on me.
That's all right.
Okay, so got 2 more clicks here. Okay, so for Ukraine, okay, so we have first on our list, I'm not going to be able to pronounce these names, so excuse me. Mikhailo, and I haven't tried this. Mikhailo Hrushevsky, I believe it is. So it's spelled Hrushevsky.
Yeah, that's right.
So he was a He's our earliest one. He was born in 1866, died in 1934. He was a poet, a playwright, and an activist. He, I generally try to keep him a little bit more recent than him, but he was a very important figure. When I looked up famous Ukrainians, he was at the top of almost every list.
Of every list.
Yeah, so he was key. Then another early one is Lisa Ukrainka. Interesting, her name is Ukraine with K-A at the end, Ukrainka.
Yeah.
But she was a poet, a playwright, and an activist also. 1871 to 1913. So she's another early one, but she also appeared on
Most of the
many
lists.
lists. Alexander Vertinsky, he was a cabaret artist. He's one that you might consider more Soviet, but in reading his biography and stuff, it just really kind of fascinated me. So I decided to keep him on. He was born in Ukraine, so he's definitely Ukrainian, but he did perform primarily for the Soviet Union, so he probably would have considered himself a Soviet. But,
sounds fun.
Similarly, the next one is Lyudmila Rudenko. She was a chess player.
Oh,
She lived from 1904 to 1986.
cool.
But a professional champion chess player.
Chess player. Huh.
And again, this was during Soviet era, but I just found that we haven't had a chess player so far, so
No, that's
that
cool.
was kind of unique. Pablo, okay, there's another one I'm not going to be able to say very well. Zareb Belny, Zahrebelnyi. And he was a noted novelist. Don't know. I did not get to read a lot about his career, but he was also on a lot of the key lists. Alexander with an O, Bilash. He was a composer.
Uh-huh.
Vladimir Dakhno. I don't know how to do the KH sound, but Dakhno, and it's Polonese. Vladimir Dakhno. He was an animator. He drew cartoon films.
Cool.
This one really fascinating. Tamara Press. She was an Olympic athlete. And I remember this scandal that went on in the 70s and 80s up until the collapse of the Soviet Union. There was a lot of issue over whether the Soviet Union was basically genetically modifying women in order to enhance their performance in the Olympics.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
And she was one who was accused of either being a man in disguise or having been pumped up with so much steroids that she was, performing well above what a woman should be performing. Her sister was also an Olympic athlete who was also accused of the same thing. Now, their birth certificates have been tracked down, and they were both listed as female at birth. So that myth that they were actually women in disguise has been debunked. But my hunch is that there was a lot of steroid and other drug use going on.
Could be.
Like there's a kind of genetic modification going on before they had all the testing and that they do today. It's what led to that testing.
Right.
So she had, it's kind of a sad story. If she was, being that she was actually a female, if she was competing in good faith, to have that kind of accusation is tough. But I left her on, even though she competed for the Soviet Union. She was Ukrainian. And again, the story just kind of really fascinated me. Valery Lobanovsky, again, appears on almost every list. He has a postage stamp. He was a football player, which we would call soccer here, but football player and a manager later on. But he is apparently a national hero from the sports industry. Bohdan Stupka, he's an actor, lived from 1941 to 2012. Lydia Belozorova. Sorry to Ukrainians that I'm mangling your language, but she's an actress. Nazary Yaremchuk. He was a singer, a very popular singer. He lived from 1951 to 95, so
Uh-huh.
died rather young. And then, and I've been able to do this so far with each of my lists, is Leonid Kadeniuk. He was an astronaut.
Oh,
I had an
cool.
astronaut so far from India, Argentina.
Nice.
Argentina. I did for India. And but he was with NASA. He was Ukrainian, but he flew for the United States on the space shuttle.
Nice.
And he died also rather young, 1951 to 2018. And then we have our two living leaders. So all of our notables are always deceased except for the current world leaders. I didn't realize that Ukraine has a president who most of us are familiar with and a prime minister who I've never heard of. Denis Shmyhal, Denis Shmyhal, current prime minister of Ukraine. And interestingly, from a little bit I read, all it says is he's in charge of the COVID issue, which seems
Interesting.
not to be. I don't know that he's doing anything right now, but it's the president of the Ukraine, who's usually in most countries the figurehead.
Yeah.
But in this country, he seems to be in charge, and that's Volodymyr Zelensky, who we've all seen on television and become quite familiar with here.
Definitely.
So that's our list of 15. There's some interesting characters.
That's a nice, diverse list.
I try to keep it a mix of occupations and areas of interests. And again, I have no idea. I do no research on these people beforehand. I know nothing about Ukrainian resources. We'll get a resource page up within the next day or two and start collecting that. If anybody has some to add, we'll put up there. If you want to get to this page right now, we're not posting it until tomorrow. But if you go to either the India or the Argentina page, and up in your address bar, just replace India or Argentina with Ukraine, it'll take you to this page, and all the links are active, and you can get started today. People that didn't tune in today have to wait till tomorrow, but I will post the link and have it active by tomorrow afternoon sometime.
Very exciting. New country.
Haven't been following the chats. I don't know if anybody's had questions.
No. They're quiet.
Pardon?
They're a little quiet today.
Yeah, that's okay. Listening's good. A couple of things that I wanted to add. I have one thing I would like to do, and I'm going to post this online, but if people can either go to the main webpage and go to the manifest and by your name put in either the country or the state that you're from, it would be really interesting to know where people are coming from. We had a lot of people join us from Argentina this time. But I had the question previously, did we have anybody from India participating? And I honestly don't know because I don't know where people are from. I know we've had people from Australia, South Africa, and England participating. So it would be real interesting to just know. You can either go there and add that to the manifest, or I'm going to post the question on G2G, and you can just put down, I'm from Spain, I'm from France, wherever. And we'll put that up there. You don't have to be real specific, but just either your nationality or your state is enough.
Yeah, just generally, it'd be great to know.
Because I do get a lot of questions about that, and I have no idea where our members are coming from. And the other thing is, if we get to a point, if we find out that there aren't a lot of records, genealogical records, there are other sources that are available. There's newspapers. There's Wikipedia often is sourced, and you go down to the bottom of their page. It'll often provide you with sources. You can go to Google Books or any other online book. Look for biographies. It's pretty interesting how much you can gather without actually having firsthand documents. And because these people are all born after 1700, our sourcing standards are a little bit looser. As long as you tell us where you got it. If you get it from WikiTree, it's not the greatest reference to use in genealogical work. But if that's all we have, and we say that that's where we got it, it can certainly provide clues to other people. If you can tell me the names of the parents that you got off of WikiTree, I can maybe take that and find that, in some original records. So,
Off Wikipedia?
Off Wikipedia or any place or any, sources that might not be.
They're not.
If you want as your final source on your family history, can still provide us with clues, is what I'm saying. So as long as you're saying I found this on Wikipedia, that's fine.
Azure says Hathy Trust in the Internet Archive.
Mm-hmm.
I know Internet Archive is a big one. When we had WikiTree Day last year, Thomas McCanty did a whole presentation on the Internet Archive.
But you can find, you can find obituaries at newspapers.com or other newspaper sites that often give you a lot of information, especially if they're famous enough and they have an American obituary, New York Times, LA
Yeah.
Times. Sometimes other countries don't put the same information. We found that with India, that they didn't generally mention family at all in the obituary, but the United States tends to. And then, like I said,
I was just going to say, sometimes, like you said, just Googling can bring up information, surprising information in places you wouldn't have thought to look.
Yeah. And I've Googled, Joe Smith family tree. Joe Smith's probably not a good example because but some of these names are unique enough that if you just type in genealogy, family tree, parents, siblings, and you'll find an article where somebody says, "Oh, he had 5 siblings, and here are their names." And again, that may not be, definitive proof in our genealogical standards. But it's still a good clue that you can now take those names and go do some research. And if you put it on their profile page, others can also take that clue and try to find some. But again, just be clear with your source. I found this on Wikipedia. And people can judge for themselves how much credibility they want to give that. But citing your sources is the key.
Absolutely.
But I'm optimistic. I didn't think we'd get anywhere with India.
I know, and it was great.
So we'll try new things. Picking a country, because we're trying to pick countries that are underrepresented in around the world. I do want to include Europe in there somewhere, but so many of the European countries are very well represented. It's hard to find some that aren't. Ukraine is more represented than many countries, but for Europe, it's actually fairly low on the list.
Yeah.
And
well,
again,
it's something positive that we can focus on.
Yeah,
with
that's
Ukraine.
what I'm thinking. Given the anniversary this time, and it's something that we can, like you said, just kind of focus on the positive aspects of their history and a little symbolic way of showing some support, perhaps.
Yep, definitely, for sure. Well. Anything else you want to add about Ukraine?
I looked at my list to see if I missed anything, but I think I covered. The only thing else that I would throw in there, some people do real good at this and others less so, is communicating with either the Discord or for those people that don't know, we do have a Discord page. It's been pretty active, so I know a lot of people are aware, but if you're not, there is a Discord page. And also on G2G. I see a lot of improvements being made on the profiles, and I'm not sure I have to go back and do some research to figure out who's doing it and that. So it's nice if you come back and let us know what you've done, even if it's something small. if you say, hey, I added the parents of this person and a spouse, that might be enough for me to head back to that profile and say, oh, I can, take it from there. As I said, Kino has only his parents, I believe, on there. If somebody were to say, hey, I found his grandparents, that might inspire me to go back. I'm kind of at a loss as to where to go with the parents. I haven't found anything. But if I know that he's been added to, maybe I can get in there and do something. But if I don't know, I go back and review the individual profiles a couple times a week, but not everybody's going to do that.
Yeah, it may pique someone else's interest.
Yeah, and also it's just nice to be able to share your successes with you and be. So.
Yeah, we like to celebrate.
Yeah, so be sure to do that. And one other thing, somebody left me a question the other day, so just in case anybody doesn't know, there is a sticker, a passport sticker on our main page that you can cut and paste over to your own profile page if you would like. And it is, you can modify it to add in whatever countries you have participated with, the number of countries. You can also leave that blank and just say you participated, that's fine. But if you like stickers and you want to keep track, just go to our main page, cut and paste it, put it over on your thing. Oh, and one more thing that we didn't mention is, Aowen, do you want to explain to people why we have a torch on our Argentina page?
I do. It's okay. So in case you haven't seen it yet, you can find it in G2G or on any of our social media. We put a little teaser trailer today for our 2023 Wiki Games. Think Olympics. We're just trying to not use the word Olympics because they're very protective of that word. So we're calling it Wiki Games. But it's going to be a 3-day event in August, 5 different events, and we're going to see which team can bring home the gold. But Azure made this really cool WikiTree torch, and it's following along in the countries that we're doing for the Nations Global Tour, and they will cross paths again in the actual week of the Olympic or the Wiki Games. So when you see the torch on the Nations Tour page, that's what it's for. It's the Wiki Games torch. And there'll be more details on that coming out a little bit later.
Yeah, we will. The torch will, I don't know if it's ready yet, but eventually the torch will be linked to an information page where you can get all the details on the summer event. And also we have a surprise country in store for that, for where the games are going to be held. And you'll find that out eventually if you stay tuned where we're going to end up on that summer week.
Yep.
So there'll be some prizes, some prizes also, but
surprises.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And I'm happy that they chose us, our group, to tie into theirs.
That's a fun little mashup. That worked out really well.
Mashup, right?
So good stuff.
I noticed a comment here from Stephen. Wonder if anyone in Antarctica. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but we did have in Argentina. We did have an Antarctic explorer on the list. So if you missed that, I believe it's. See if I can find his name here. That was Jose Maria Sobral. He's the second on our list of Argentinians, and he was the first Argentinian to go to Argentina for exploration. So
very cool.
I don't know that I could find 15 famous people from Antarctica. But,
that would be a stretch, probably.
So probably not a lot of diversity in careers. But,
yeah.
Yeah, we did get our Antarctic connection.
I like it. Cool. Anything else you want to share or talk about before we go?
We covered everything. Tonight I'll be working on a G2G post for tomorrow. So if you missed part of this talk or any thing that you didn't catch here, it should all be in there. And if not, go ahead and just ask your questions over at G2G. I don't follow Discord as much. I'm new to Discord, and a little bit. It works a little different than my mind works, so it's a little bit harder for me to follow. But I am on G2G every day, so I can get questions there, and I do check in at Discord. So eventually, I'll get your.
Well, there's a good group there that help respond to stuff. And
well, yeah, and I'm finding that there isn't been a lot of need. The team members are able to help each other out there. So
for sure. All right, cool. Well, Ukraine, we're excited. See what you guys can do.
Okay. Like I said, if you want to start today, just go to either India or Argentina and change the name in the address bar to Ukraine, and you can get started. If not, tomorrow I'll have the links up, and you can get going. 3 weeks to see what we can do.
Sounds good. Thanks, David.
Okay. Have a good week.
You too.